Hey everyone, in this episode we're going to take a look at the film First Man. We're going to talk about the pacing of the film, the cinematography, and Ryan Gosling playing one of America's favorite heroes. This is episode 84 of the Reel-ists Podcast. Hey listeners, this is Donnie.
And this is Oscar.
And we have our producer Ruben here. I just pointed to him. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Is there a little like...
Are you ready for footage, for YouTube footage?
No, right. Getting us ready for that crossover. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Really quick before we jump in, I want to say, as always, thank you so much for listening to us. We know there are many podcasts out there, so we appreciate you taking the time to hear us out. If you're new, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. And as always, we try to, what we do here on the Reel-ists Podcast, just to give you a little quick snapshot of what we talk about, is we talk about film and how certain scenes and aspects tie into real life. We don't always get there with every episode because, sometimes we have animated films, sometimes we have like horror films. But we try, right? I mean, we do what we can.
I feel like you just shut down like our podcast. So why do we listen to you then?
I'm just saying, like, not every single episode.
Like, we sell ice cream, but we don't always have ice cream. Sometimes we have chocolate.
Well, I say that's why we have the review film, because we do review film for every episode.
That's true. Yes.
So
that part is accurate.
Thank you very much. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, we're on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Team Reel-ists. Team REELISTS, no dash. And remember, you can always leave us a comment there. You can also leave us a comment on YouTube or on iTunes, and you can rate us on iTunes as well. So with that being said, I don't think we have any housekeeping. I think we can get right into this episode of First Man, Damien Chazelle's latest film. Last one was La La Land. Loved it.
That was not.
Just wanted to throw that in there.
That wasn't to come up in some way this episode.
Yeah, of course. Why not? We can't avoid that.
Oh, just don't give Whiplash any love.
I loved Whiplash too, but that's a whole nother episode. We'll save that for our Damien Chazelle episode.
Why we love Damien Chazelle movies. Oh my gosh.
So, Oscar, let's just get right into it. Do you want to start us off with some quick thoughts about First Man?
Sure, since you so kindly asked.
Oh.
Yes, this movie was a very nice tribute to Neil Armstrong. It is based off a book that we did not read. I mean, it's like, an autobiography.
It's based off a book?
The way the story plays out is from a book.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, it's a real life person. Right.
Okay.
It's based off, the person, but the story of events and how it was told is coming from a book. It's inspired from the book.
Uh-huh.
But yes, no, it was really a really interesting story. Unfortunately, just to me, the pacing of it is really what dragged it down. To the point where I was kind of, based off his previous movies, I had an expectation of what I was going to get. That I was like, okay, I can do that. I can go with that. I want that. Not to say it had to be musical, any kind of in that sense, but unfortunately, it was a very, very slow film that you have to let it play out. But the more it goes on, the more you're just like, just wrap it up in that sense. Like you're just like, okay, all right, let's get to the moon. And when you get to the moon, you're kind of just like, all right, we're here. How are we wrapping it up? Are we gonna wrap it up when you get to first step, or we're going back home? Okay. Oh, it's ended. All right. It's kind of just had that kind of flow. But I feel like it was really great, really greatly done. I think Damien Chazelle is showing that he has the ability to make movies in different ways, and ability to capture a different feel and a different sense for each movie that he's done. So I've been really appreciating that work that he's been putting into it. The score was really nice. The quietness that the moments had that they were in throughout the movie, really well thought of, because it's kind of that you're in space, there is no sound, science fact. But yeah, so it was a very nice movie about Neil Armstrong, a very honest film about Neil Armstrong. I believe it was very few inaccurate stuff that they mentioned that they had in the movie. But yeah, so I really thought it was just a nice film. It wasn't my particular kind of film that I would seek out, but
Wasn't your cup of tea.
Exactly. But it was a really well done film.
Okay. I can appreciate that. First Man, the riveting story of NASA's mission to land on a moon, to land a man on the moon, focusing on Neil Armstrong and the years 1961 to 1969, a visceral first-person account based on the book by James R. Hansen. There you go, Oscar. The movie will explore the sacrifices and the cost on Armstrong and on the nation, and one of the most dangerous missions in history. Dum, dum, dum.
Which, when you look back, you kind of just like, kind of is still like the most dangerous. We haven't done anything that
since then.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, like, we've taken like things to Mars, but no human.
Not people.
Yeah. Except the Martian. Which
right.
is not true.
Check that movie out.
Fan fiction wise or fictional wise, we've done Interstellar. We've done some great
love
things.
Interstellar, man. See, I feel like there's been some good space movies, dude. Gravity was great too.
Yeah. You know, that was like within the Earth, like it wasn't too far off, but
yeah, true.
It was scary.
Interstellar was that was out there,
right? That went,
but I loved it too.
I wish there was a map of like someone that like actually made the distance of like where each movie, how far, like where does Aliens go, like how far?
Yeah, how far out does it go?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then some smart alecky person starts throwing like Marvel films on there, throwing Thor in there and Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm like, all right, come on now. But let me just share my quick thoughts real quick. I did like the film. I thought it was. I agree with the pacing. However, I am more forgiving. Whenever it's a biopic, I'm always a little more forgiving about it, just because they're trying to retell someone's life, and you know, sometimes the main focus isn't always about what are the most entertaining scenes. I mean, I know they're wanting they're wanting the movie to be entertaining, but when they're trying to retell, sometimes it's just not everything is super entertaining, so it's fine. But I agree, it was kind of slow, but I forgive it. It was beautifully shot. I loved the cinematography. I really loved the close-ups of all the shots when they were in the shuttle itself, or in the rocket, or whatever, the spacecraft, because it made you really feel like you were right there, and I was getting claustrophobic, you know, in some of those scenes, because it's like I felt like I was crammed into it. And I mean, you're just fully immersed. I like how it was scored.
Who, Donnie?
By Justin Hurwitz, the same person who did.
That was not. I didn't mean to say. I just knew you knew who that was.
Oh, okay.
That was a selling point of you wanting to see the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know. I honestly, I didn't know he was scoring it until later. But once I learned that out, I was like, oh yeah, I'm for sure seeing this. I was already going to see it, but that's beside the point. But yeah.
You saw the director of La La Land, you immediately was like, I'm sure seeing this.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, Ryan Gosling too. I'm like, yeah, he's great. He's a good actor. So, speaking of Ryan Gosling, I thought he portrayed Neil Armstrong pretty well. One thing I did want to point out was that I did like that they didn't try to make Neil Armstrong the most likable character in the world. Like, they didn't add things in there to make him seem like he was the super, super sweet man, or super generous, or super kind. I mean, I guess you can argue that the sacrifices he made alone speak for the character that he is, like the character of the man that he was. But, you know, he did have his struggles. He did have, you know, not so good days, and you know, with all the pressure he was under, you can imagine why. But I like that they stayed true to that, because I feel like sometimes, you know, when you're talking about a notable figure, you either try to like show the demise and the downfall of them, or you try to like talk them up like they were just like the greatest person. And this one, I feel like they did good. Like, they balanced it. They stayed like he was a human. You know, they weren't trying to make some like unreachable like icon to where like he's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it was unapologetically honest about the character, and it told the story of like his motivation, his push to wanting to do this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because, you know, he was caring and he thought of like this big ideal or this big picture. It was just this kind of like they kind of give him that he feels like he has a goal and he wants to accomplish that. So yeah. I could see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I will say, though, just briefly, that Ryan Gosling himself is just not able to pull in audiences based off of his box office track record. I don't know if you guys have like looked into it, but he's just unable to. It's unfortunate. What? I just wanted to briefly mention that.
But so it didn't do good. Because I haven't been paying attention to the numbers. So
it came out in number 3 in the box office. So yeah.
What was number 1?
Venom again.
Oh, nice.
And A Star Is Born was number 2.
Okay.
So it was just surprising that a lot of his films. I think the only one that's done outside of 20 million in its opening weekend was Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. But every other movie has stayed within.
I can see that. 15, that was pretty highly anticipated.
20, yeah. So
there are yeah, I mean there are some. I feel like
is he an award winner? Is he?
No, just nominated.
Oh.
Or if you're talking Oscars, no, he's not. I think a Golden Globe. I'm not sure, but
Claire Foy is a
Golden Globe winner
for TV. Yeah, I think it's a Golden.
Because I didn't know. I don't know who she was until you told me. You said
she was TV. Yeah, she's TV star, and then. She became, now she's a movie star, I guess, to some degree, because she has the.
Well, yeah, she has the
girl in the spider's web, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I was like, for the longest time, I didn't know it was the same girl, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, right? See, because it's crazy, like.
I like how you guys, you had twice. You had that.
I had that, yeah. So just jumping back to our last episode that we just did, I didn't know that girl who played Darlene
Cynthia.
in El Royale, she's also going to be in the Widows movie. Did you know that? It's the same girl. I'm pointing out Ruben right now. It's the same girl. I had no idea until the movie was Ruben. Until like we were like probably 10 minutes away from the movie being over, and they show her profile, and I go, "Oh my god!" And I turned to Oscar and I was like, "That's the same girl from Widows." And he's looking at me like, "Duh! Like you didn't know that?" Like 10 minutes till the movie's over. But jumping back to First Man, so. But yes, Claire Foy, she was in it. She was great. She played the wife. What I wanted to say was that they started off in 1961, so this was 8 years before the moon landing.
Oh yeah.
So I just wasn't. I knew they were gonna obviously lead up to the moon landing. Like obviously they're not gonna come out the gate with it, but I didn't know they were gonna take it back to that far back, 8 years.
Yeah. Essentially, it's the beginning of this story is the unfortunate passing from that point, right? I mean, we saw a little bit of the daughter, but from her passing, that's really where the story starts. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of just like I don't know, unless I missed it, but I know like the daughter was, that was a big loss. Like it wasn't like, something that was just like with time went away. Because crucially, there was a big moment at the end in space.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention that.
I didn't, yeah.
But yeah, so that, I mean, I just didn't, I don't know. Was it a reoccurring thing that was brought up? Did I miss that?
His daughter?
Yeah.
It was brought up one time when they were interviewing for who was going to be a part of the team. Remember?
Oh, yeah, and
they were like, your daughter, we know you lost your daughter. And he was like, I'm sorry, is there a question? And
yes,
they asked him.
Yes, I remember that part.
Which I was like, I get why. I mean, even that scene, just talking about that scene specifically, I get why they would ask him that. But I was kind of like, that's a little, that's kind of messed up to like, you're in a room full of people. He's already like on the spot, already probably nervous or whatever. And then you're just going to like slam that domino down.
Yeah.
That's what I was like, dang.
It has that kind of.
But his answer was great. I thought, he said I can't, or he said something like, to
it's
say
always
it,
going to be, yeah.
To say it wouldn't affect me is not being whatever. So, but yeah, that and I guess that was kind of like his like driving force throughout the film, kind of. I mean, like his inner, like his motivation to just like keep pushing, keep pursuing, which was great. And I mean, not to jump all the way to the end, but how it tied back around was, I like how they did it. So we can talk about that a little later.
But there is some interesting information about that part, but stay tuned.
Is there?
Yeah.
You know something I don't know?
Maybe you didn't know, but we'll get to that.
Okay, maybe I'll stay tuned for this episode because I want to know. So what I had kind of said in my initial thoughts, I want to just talk about the cinematography of it. I thought it was really beautifully shot, obviously, and I feel like it's different from other films, like a film like maybe Interstellar or Gravity. Like Interstellar, they're on this big like. Not a big, but they're on like a pretty big rocket. There's a lot of, it's pretty spacious. Gravity, they're in a confined space, but you're also getting a lot of shots from the outside. You're seeing the shuttle in orbit, just in space. I feel like with this one, you got a lot of the scenes were kind of peering outside. It was from Ryan Gosling's point of view.
Yeah.
Which I feel like made it excuse me. Going through puberty over here. Did you hear that? It happens to me all the time. I think it was more effective to have that kind of point of view shot outwards because you're getting the perspective from them and you're seeing what they're seeing. And I like that. I appreciate that more than them trying to like give me this like kind of gimmicky like, ooh, look at this shuttle in space. Like giving me the outside view of it. Because like we see that a lot. But like to be like just where they're at, even how it opened and how it was just, I mean, it was pretty intense. Like he was, going up and up, and it was rickety and shaking. The craft he was in.
And he almost got like stuck in space because it went like the wrong direction.
And it just was like, I was trying to keep in mind like this is in the 60s, so it's like obviously now technology's advanced. Spacecrafts and rockets and all those things are probably, way more safe and secure, and more things are tested, so they're better equipped. But back then, and they're just testing these things, and it's like it almost felt like I was waiting for it to like break apart. I was like so kind of not on the edge of my seat because I know he wasn't gonna die, but it was still very, very intense to watch, and to hear and just to hear to hear it and to see it was really, really intense. I don't know if it was as intense for you guys, but for me it was. I was getting a little anxious. Ruben, no?
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I'm just taking polls here.
we'll wait for the responses. Are you asking for me?
I was waiting on your response.
I didn't know. I thought it was just Ruben. I thought Ruben was getting attention.
You're included in this?
Yeah, the close-ups, I agree. I will say yes.
Okay.
At first, I was just like, oh no, shaky cam. Like, that's a fear. When you see a movie and it's a lot of shaky cams, when it's what's in a small area, it makes sense. But like when it's like you're watching like a chase scene and like a big outside scene, and they do shaky cam, then you kind of just like, I can't get a clear picture of what I'm seeing, and that hurts the movies. But at first, I was concerned. I was like, maybe this might not work with shaky cam. But it added to the realism because you felt like in that moment you're just like, man, I would be concerned, have that anxious feeling because if it wasn't shaky cam, you probably would have been like, he's fine, he's just he's being dramatic, he's doing the most.
Yeah.
But you get the sense of the uncomfort like of managing one of those pilots or being a pilot and driving one of those, and yeah, it definitely had that.
I just can't even. I mean, maybe it's because I'm petrified of heights, and that's just my fear. But I just can't imagine like being a pilot. It freaks me out. But like being just the thought of like being an astronaut and like trying to. I mean, they were testing these things and like probably going up a little higher each time or going and like trying things that haven't really been done. And like for someone to just be so willing to, I guess, to be a part of it. I mean, I don't know. I just can't. It's tough to think about, and I'm just like, I guess I'm not that selfless or giving that I would want to like risk my life or sacrifice my life for that. But thankfully, there are people that do that. Another one of the close-up scenes that I liked was when it was him and that partner, one of his partners, and they were like in that roll. I guess they were like in space and they couldn't stop rolling.
Oh yeah.
And I just like the way that was shot too, because it's like it's not like they panned out and you saw the craft itself spinning in space. You just are inside and you just are relying on what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and their reactions and what so it's like I really, really liked that scene because I felt like it would have been so not a cop out, but it would have been really easy to just be like, oh, let's just show the craft spinning, and that could have they could have done that, but they didn't. They stayed inside and you're staying in their point of view. So I was like, I really, really liked that scene. And even I was like I said, I mean, it was to see this movie in theaters. It's cool. I'm glad we saw it in theaters because you just get these kind of films, Gravity, Interstellar, this one, I'm sure Apollo 13, maybe even like those films. It's to be fully immersed in it just makes the experience that much more like enriching. And and great. And I feel like I'm rambling. Oscar, do you have anything you want to add
about the sequence? I mean, I want to say that it had that similarity. I remember watching Gravity, and that moment when Sandra Bullock is like loose in space and she's just spinning nonstop, and the camera was showing it through her helmet. It was that kind of same of like, even I'm starting to feel like I'm gonna die with her, because it's just like it's not stopping and it doesn't stop. And so it was just that feeling. And if they would have shown the outside of it, like they're in a tested environment kind of feeling, then yeah, you probably would have been like, oh, they're not getting used to this, or they're just not yet quite ready, prepared to do the actual launch and to do the actual like outer space stuff. So yeah, it was more personal. And this movie did a lot of personal things that accumulated in this history of like NASA and outer space. So
yeah,
very, very nice to see it from a different lens, rather than just like, oh, here's a shot of our astronauts training. It's more of like,
or here's like a montage of them
preparing.
Like they could have, because you see that like anytime they're in film, when people are getting ready for this big mission or this big event, they do have that kind of, I've seen that a couple times. You see them all training, you see them all taking tests, you see them all whatever, kind of like military style, like you see them all climbing the rope and jumping over the wall. But I'm glad they didn't do that. I wanted to talk about Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong. And to be honest, I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't really know much about Neil Armstrong. Obviously, we know he went to the moon in 1969. That's all I knew. Thank you, Even Stevens. But personally, I didn't really know, much about him. But I did like a little research and just kind of like watched some clips on YouTube about him. And I mean, from what I found, like I said, it's not a ton, but I think Ryan Gosling gave a really good performance. And because Neil Armstrong was a pretty like stoic man and pretty. I don't want to say like bland or didn't have emotion, but he always kind of had this calm demeanor, and I think Ryan Gosling was able to capture that pretty well. And it was really nice. One of the scenes I did want to point out was obviously the emotional scene when he was crying at his daughter's funeral, and I mean even that was like, man, like just crying scenes. I'm always not super critical or picky of crying scenes, but I do pay attention. I do want to like, okay, I'm gonna watch you. I want to see how you're doing this, and if it's really gonna move me, and it did. I'm not gonna lie, like it really did move me, and Ruben agrees. Ruben's nodding.
I love how you have a little callback to Ruben.
Well, he saw it with us, so I just want to give him opportunities if he wants to share anything, but I think he's good over there.
He will come to the mic and grab it and start.
Like, I want to say something.
Or he'll record on his own.
We'll listen to the episode, and I'll be like, what the heck? When did Ruben say this? He's like editing.
He'll be like, actually, guys, I really did also like. But
what did you think of Ryan Gosling's performance?
I mean, it's really tough because Neil Armstrong was one that, as you were saying, just had that a lot of personality traits that are not necessarily really. I mean, yes, you need time to get the understanding of the character, but Ryan Gosling, I mean, he did a great job for what the character is, but it's tough to really say like this is one of his best performances, because it's just he wasn't able to give that range in the same way that a fictional character you can have a little bit of range with. This one he was portraying accurately, from what it sounds like to you, of a person, a real life person. So I mean, as long as he did a good job of portraying that person, then that's all you really need to do for that.
Yeah,
you can't really try to be like, well, let me do something that people are gonna say is worthy of this movie, because if the movie doesn't call for it, you can't add it.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not how the person was, you're like doing a disservice to.
And the same for Claire Foy. It's tough because they're when you portray real people, you can't go out of their, unless they're intentionally kind of being like, oh, this is inspired by their true story, but you usually can't go outside of their real life personalities. And both of them, individually, you would be like, okay, what? I'm not gonna pay a movie to see these people for that length of time, but it's this historical moment that they're a part of that is their reasoning for being involved. And yeah, I mean, they did what they had to do, and they did it really well. But it's tough to really be like, or at least for me to be like, oh, that was one of the better performances of this year. That's definitely like performance worthy.
Absolutely, Oscar. And I was just gonna say too that it is tough because you want to do service to the person you're playing, and it's a responsibility to portray someone like especially someone like Neil Armstrong, so it's like I don't want to say you can only do so much, but like you have to go by the person that they were, and you can't with a fictional character. You can go, oh, let me give them a tick here, let me give them something, an accent or a thing that I do, like to just give them more interesting layers or to layer them or develop them more. But when you're portraying someone, you got to kind of stick to how they are. Yeah. So it's like it's
especially in this type of film. Like if this was one that it's like, oh, we're taking portions of what actually happened in real life, but we're adding our own twist to it, then I could see where they can go a little bit different. Because I'm just thinking of like other movies that are kind of similar that are true events, but the characters feel like a movie character rather than a real life person to sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's just because it's the nature of the movie. It's like sometimes the focus is not the actual character, it's the plot or whatever the scheme is, like this bigger thing that they have to do. But this one was more about what they were trying to accomplish and how, they were a big part of it. So it was just a different way that this story was being told than a common telling. Yeah, because otherwise it would be a documentary.
Yeah, I know, right? For sure. So yeah, they were giving us a lot too. Like I said, they took it all the way back to 1961. So they were giving us like about 8 years of different events happening, and a lot of people dying, which was unfortunate. A lot of failures, but we finally get to the moment. We finally get to 1969. They're ready to go.
In.
What?
2 hours in.
2 hours in, yeah. Finally, Jesus. And they go to the moon, and the rest is history. Like, we know what's going to happen. Now, let me tell you one of the things I didn't like about this film, because, there are a lot of great things, but it wasn't a perfect film. I didn't like how it ended, because they get to the moon.
We just went past the moon to the sequence.
Well, no, I'm tying it in because when they got to the moon, I was gonna get there. I'm saying I thought that the moon landing was gonna somehow be the ending. I thought either him taking a step onto the moon, and then they could have cut it there, like dramatically, like we already know what happens. The rest is history.
Plant,
and they left that out. They didn't even put that in there,
which is controversy in it.
There's a lot of like articles going on about that.
Unpatriotic.
Yeah, I know.
Which if I was Damien Chazelle, I probably would have put it in the movie. I can understand his perspective of not including it, because it wasn't the focus. It wasn't the focus of this American accomplishment. It was the focus of the person's goal.
Yeah, about the man.
And so to me, it's kind of just like I get it, and I honestly don't think there needs to be a reaction like that. That's kind of distracting the movie, because yes, it was still done. It's not like they're saying it never happened. It was just something that they didn't decide to showcase. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if I was Damien Chazelle, I probably would have still put it in just to avoid that. Because it's surprising.
It's pretty.
I don't know if he probably saw that coming. If like people are gonna be like, "What do you mean you don't put the flag in the movie?"
I feel like he had to have known that it was gonna cause some backlash a little bit, because that's like
because the word about it was done like, I don't want to say like too. It was at a point where you could have still included it, like you could have gone and reshot that like one moment or CGI'd it or something like that, but he opted not to. Which is hey,
to each their
directors
own,
right? Yeah, directors' creative freedom to say, I won't include that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that still impacts the movie. Like, I just don't see why, like, that would be this movie is being unpatriotic. It's like, it's showcasing, It even says there's, like, a lady in this movie that's was like, oh, I knew America can do it, or, I always felt that they would be the first to do, that some kind of, nice patriotic comment, but.
Yeah,
I don't know.
People just need to get over it.
Right.
That's my opinion. But yeah, and another thing that happens too, another thing that they do show is him taking his daughter's bracelet, I think it was, or
right,
something of his daughter's, and letting it go in space. or on the moon. Kind of like this was all, this was all for you.
Now this
type of moment.
Right. Now this is what I was mentioning, which actually, I mean, unless I'm incorrect, but it actually did not happen.
Really,
it did not happen. So he instead chose to do something that did not happen in the actual story of Neil Armstrong and the moon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's part of the controversy, but that actually never happened.
Wow, I did not know that.
Which changes a little bit of that like moment, because then you're just like, oh, so this was a movie moment, like this was a movie made for movie only kind of scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, supposedly that what I was able to look into. But I mean, unless my sources were just people that didn't like the movie, I don't know. Unless I was just getting wrong information, but
yeah, I mean that's interesting. If you're saying if you're saying that it didn't happen, it didn't happen. I'm sorry, I'm speechless right now.
Did you look into that, Ruben?
I think you could have done without it. I mean, I don't think you needed that. I don't think they needed that scene.
Ruben says they don't think they needed that scene.
Yeah.
We don't think that they needed to tie that back around, loop that back around.
Well, I mean, it didn't happen, so...
Yeah.
I don't know why I do know why he chose to do it, but...
Why did you choose to do it?
I think just to tie loose ends.
Just to tie loose ends. I'm just saying it so our listeners can hear what Ruben's saying. So Ruben's saying they think they chose to go with that scene so they can tie a loose end, so we can wrap it back around to, we see him losing his daughter in the beginning of the film, and we want to.
But he's honoring
that
her.
He's honoring his daughter's life, and like this was all for you, like, or your death it was for nothing, and you know what I'm saying. Sorry if that sounded weird, but yeah, I mean, well, dang. That just, I don't know. You just threw me off with that one, Oscar, because I did not know that.
It surprised me when I found out.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So you guys are getting a live, honest reaction from me right now. This is how I act when I get news that I just can't handle. I'm like, at a loss for words. Jesus.
We're gonna have a hang in there, baby audio clip as Donnie recovers his thoughts.
Well, anyways, all right. Well, sorry. My whole point, I wanted to say was that I feel like the ending, it could have been such a more impactful ending to end the movie right then and there, with him on the moon, or with him stepping on the moon, or him on the moon, or him whatever. But I feel like they didn't need to bring it back down to Earth, because the very last scene was, we see, he comes back down to Earth. He has to go in that quarantine room for a month or whatever, because they don't know the effects it might have had, and then he finally is face to face with his wife after being away, and they just give a kind of look to one another, and that's it. So I just feel like I didn't really see what the point was for that very last scene. Like, I don't know why it was necessary, because his wife was a part of the film, but like, I don't feel like their relation. From you ending the movie like that, you're making me feel like that was the chunk of the film. Like, that was like one of the key plot points to the film was their marriage or their relationship, and it wasn't. Like, it was talked about, it was mentioned, and they showed some scenes amongst the two, but that wasn't like the main focus of the film.
Yeah.
So I just don't know why.
Right.
I don't know why he decided to end it like that, but that was like one of my biggest problems.
I could see that.
Say.
Understandably.
Did you have anything that was like, I know you said the pacing, was there anything else that was like, I could have done without?
I mean, it's one that, I don't know, I think it would just be more of, I feel like the movie could have been filmed, but I don't know if it's kind of more of just like a personal taste, I think, at that point. So no, I don't have anything else that kind of struck me wrong. It just, a lot of it was just like, I don't know if I would have done it that same way.
Right.
But that at that point, that's not critiquing the film. That's just saying, just like, right.
I gotcha. Did you have a favorite scene?
It's kind of, there's no like particular scene that I really.
It's kind of tough.
But I appreciated a lot of the moments of Neil Armstrong, like, as you mentioned, the crying scene of his daughter's passing, like that. That just was really, that was Ryan Gosling's 100% being able to deliver that scene. But it was just like, at first I was like, oh, he's not going to be emotional about his daughter, or maybe he can't show the emotions, and then he just lets it out, and he let it out really well. So that was really nice to see that. When he found out he was doing the mission, the Apollo, was 11, 13, one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
When he found out, that was very nice to see. And the interview itself those moments were nice. In addition to like the trainings, like when the astronauts were killed, that one was like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was like a take.
That was a heavy moment.
Yeah. So those little things like that were highlights to it, but like it wasn't like one extended scene that I really enjoyed. But
yeah. No, I completely agree. There was a lot of great scene. I feel weird calling these scenes great scenes.
Right, because they're not scenes.
They
like,
were,
touches, like moments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think some of my favorite scenes, honestly, were just like the ones that were close up in the shuttle with him, and just either looking out of the window or just looking at Ryan Gosling's face and him just like kind of bracing himself. You know, like him, you just see him just sweating and he's heavy breathing, and he's trying to gain control of the spacecraft. And those were, some of my favorite scenes, because they were just intense, and I was like, oh my God, like my heart was going,
Yeah.
It was having an effect on me, so I really liked that. All right, Oscar, with all that being said, everything we talked about, what would you give this film? Final real score.
I would give it a 4 out of 5, for the reasons that were the biggest highlights to me, but at the same time, the biggest drawbacks were the most hard for me to really thoroughly enjoy this movie. Thinking about it, looking back at it helps, but the slow pace was the biggest deal breaker for me. And it became one of those movies that it's like I could see why people appreciate it. I totally get it, and it's not a bad film, and by no means. It's just more of that personal taste that I was just like it just wasn't striking me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that would probably be the biggest reason for the lowest score than probably most people would give it. But yeah,
right.
4 out of 5.
Actually, it's higher than what I thought you were going to give it. So,
Aw, you're wrong.
I am too going to give it a 4 out of 5.
I want to change mine. Just kidding.
Because I thought it was, like the pacing was the biggest thing, but like I said, I'm pretty forgiving about it, knowing that it's a biopic, and I thought it was well acted as much as we can critique the acting, but performances were all around good. And just to, kind of see everything that it took to lead up to this very big iconic moment in our history, just to see the struggles, the sacrifices, everything, was really just, eye-opening and informing. And people talk about, you hear it referenced all throughout school and whatever, like the moon landing, the man on the moon, first man on the moon, and Neil Armstrong's name all the time. But I feel like it just put it in a different perspective seeing this film. And it's like, it's not just, oh, a man went to the moon. It's like, it's so much more than that.
Right.
So it was really just made me just look at it differently. And I thought it was beautifully scored, beautifully shot. And yeah, I thought it was a really solid film. I don't know. It doesn't have like the super entertaining factor to where I would watch it because I want to be entertained. I would watch it because I would watch it to appreciate to appreciate like the cinematography, the score, and all that stuff. That's why I would.
Because like I think of other movies that are that it's not a autobiography like from beginning to life, but it's a moment in time. The one that to me successfully was able to do it was Saving Mr. Banks. So like so to me it's like I know it's possible. Like I know you can definitely find the way to make the entertaining story. Because it's kind of, at that point, it's just how do you want to tell it? And I just feel like Damien Chazelle decided to tell this more intimate and intentionally. I want to say intentional, so I don't know what his intention was, but I would assume that it was by design that's how he wanted to tell it, where it wasn't this like can Neil Armstrong get trained? Is he going to go through the struggles? Is he having mental breakdowns because he can't go through the struggles? It was more of just like an honest retelling of this moment and how it happened and how this one person played a big role. So yeah, it was I can appreciate for what it was doing.
Awesome.
But personally I wouldn't probably watch it again.
Ruben, really quick, final real score.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5 as well. All right, we're 3 for 3, guys.
Is that a first?
I don't know.
I feel like we've always had different.
We ask, yes, we do. When you've seen the movie, we do ask you. We'll have to do. I want to do some digging and see. Like, I know you and I have had the same real scores, but we'll check it out. We definitely didn't for Red Sparrow. Check that up. Check that episode out if you haven't listened to it already. We had like three different levels, 3 different tiers of scores. We were just like all off on that one. That was great. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We definitely want to know what you thought about First Man. Did you like it more than La La Land or Whiplash?
Oh, no, I can say that. I know my answer is no. Did not like it more.
Like La La Land better?
Than First Man? For entertainment, yes. We're actually for in yes.
Yeah, I know. Why you gotta say for entertainment? Yeah, just say you like it.
I don't. I mean, there's
Just
things
say you
about
like it. Just say you like it.
I feel peer pressure. To all those that are not La La Land fans, back me up right now. I liked Whiplash more. If that
is that your favorite so far out of those
Damien
three?
Chazelle, yeah.
Okay, I can appreciate that.
And then La La Land, and then First Man.
Okay. I love them all. So, thank you guys so much for listening. Once again, let us know what you thought about First Man. You can let us know on any of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or on YouTube, or on iTunes. And I think that's about it. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.
Yep, as always.
Adios.
Thank you.